Hi everybody, it's Mark here. I thought I'd take a little break from my usual series of videos because something had came across my path recently, and it just might be what other people sometimes call my soul deck. And because I'm so deep into Thoth these days, it was going to have to be something along Thoth lines. I wasn't hunting for it, I wasn't looking for it. I sort of knew it existed in the back of my head. It originally came out in 2011 and then was reissued in 2017. But it just came up on eBay. Unbelievably, it was only $40 Canadian plus shipping and tax. And so I consider it a real find in terms of value, besides the fact that I've really bonded with the deck. I mean, there are other versions of the deck that are going for over $200 on eBay right now. So I think it was meant to be mine, and so it came to me. And what is this deck, you're wondering? It is the Rosetta Tarot by M.M. Moline, who you might know more famously for her Tabula Mundi Tarot, another indie deck that she created, and in her co-host duties with Susan T. Chang on the Fortune's Wheelhouse podcast. In any case, this was her first attempt at a tarot deck, and I really enjoy the creator's first attempt because, yeah, sometimes the artwork isn't as, let's say, fine, but, you know, by the time she got to Tabula Mundi, her human figures are a lot more proportional and proper, but I kind of like that clunky, homemade, this is my first go at it vibe from a tarot artist. And that's what she did here. And even her first attempt had black borders on the cards and English titles, which I didn't really enjoy. And I wouldn't have even bothered to pick up that one. But what she did with this deck, and it has a lovely shoebox kind of lifting and a silky ribbon to pull the cards out. What she did is she went along Thoth lines, being in Egypt, download for Aleister Crowley, and inspired deck. She went with the papyrus vibe, and I absolutely love it. Here she has said that this is number 253 out of only 777. 2, 5, and 3 add up to 10. That's the Wheel of Fortune card, and that's my card of the year. So, like I said, really meant to be. And this reissue was in 2017, also adds up to 10. So everything was just lining up beautifully. Now, what I really like about, or one of the things I like about the deck, like I said, it's got this papyrus bordering, so it's not very intrusive, and it's just very beautiful and subtle. And she has written the names and the keywords of the cards in hieroglyphics, in a phonetic hieroglyphics, which I really love, because one thing about the Thoth Tarot is that the keywords in English are right on the card, so that it's hard to think of anything else but failure when you would look at that card, and then the imagery becomes sort of secondary. But in this case, you're looking at the image of the Nine of Swords here, and in your memory, you're knowing that it's cruelty on the card. And just to be helpful, she does give you a alphabet, the hieroglyphic alphabet, so you can see what is actually written on the card for you. So in that way, you get the energy of the keyword and the title, but you don't really see it when you're looking at the card. She even gives you a lovely little card to write your own name in hieroglyphics, which I am way too scared to do because I'm clumsy and it just wouldn't come out right. And I think I'll just leave it as is. So the main thing about the cards, yes, some of the human figures are clunky, and I'll show you some of those as I go along. But it's the coloration on the cards that just pop out at you. It's just really intense color, so beautiful. And the other thing she's done, so here's a kind of clunky Princess of Wands. I much prefer the Thoth version, but like I said, the coloration can't be beat. And I really like bright colors that are not garish. And she's followed the color palette exactly, as far as I know, to the Golden Dawn specifications. So that kind of impact you're meant to get from the color is on the cards, or I trust that they are on the cards. She says they are, and I believe they are. And much of the colorization is like the Thoth colorization, also based on the Golden Dawn applications of color. But the Golden Dawn is kind of watery and faint, and these are very, very bright, and she really goes for it. So the other thing that she did in terms of the art is she gave all the 5 suits, the majors and the 4 minor suits, their own art style, but not in a way that sort of makes the deck not have some kind of integrity, because she makes sure that she uses acrylic paint on all of the suits, but in some suits other things are more prominent. So the majors are all full-on acrylic. The wands are appropriately colored pencil, because, you know, pencils, wands, wood. And of course cups, watercolor. There's something called metallic etching that she uses for the air. And I don't really know what that is, but it really gives an airy kind of sensation to the cards. And then of course, earthy discs or pentacles are oils, all oil colors. Again, with this sort of track of acrylics tying them all together. So that's the general idea of the deck. Let me just show you a few of the cards and you'll get the idea of what I'm going on about here. So here's a beautiful star card from the Thoth Tarot. And, you know, beautiful, gorgeous. But when you look at this, it's the pinks and the purples and the violets. They're just that much more intense. You might prefer a more human figure to this sort of goddess-like figure. Now, it is supposed to be the goddess Nuit in both cards. But you might find this more relatable. I sort of come down on both sides of the argument. In other words, I love the Thoth because it is in human energy. It is godlike energy infusing all of the cards, and they feel more magical in that way. But I do get that this feels a little closer to what we could identify with. But in terms of the art or temperance card, I much prefer this one because this one is, again, kind of clunky. We've got a sort of a two-bodied figure here. I mean, I won't go into everything that's on the card, but even the way this volcano is erupting feels a bit clunky. And the rainbow coming out of it. Here we have a subtlety of the rainbow coming up and the shoulder pads there. Instead of the lion and the eagle having exchanged colors from the Lover's card, she's created a combo of the two, which gets the point across, and it's fine, and it's really great for that. But I mean, visually, that's a more beautiful card. But as I say, this card works, and the clunkiness is somewhat charming. And she also brings a lot of, it's called the Rosetta Tarot because the Rosetta Stone had both hieroglyphics and Greek on it. So she brings in the Egyptian gods, as we were familiar with in Thoth, and Thelema, as Crowley saw it, but she also mixes in some of the Greek myths. So here we have Apollo and his sister, what's her name? I can't think of it right now. So, you know, representing solar and lunar influences, which are then again all over the card. So I really, she never has a bad idea, just sometimes the execution is a bit clunky, but this would probably be my least favorite execution. Artemis is the sister. So other than that, I don't think there's, where she's made changes, they've been improvements, and I'll get to that in a minute. So here we have the devil from Thoth, and you know, I kind of prefer this devil because the phallic symbol isn't completely right in your face, and we have more of a god Pan than just a goat. So I like that. And then we have these psychedelic mushrooms who are also kind of phallic, and this hint to the planet Saturn, which is a Capricorn card. And I like the mirror where you're looking at your shadow self. And so she brings a lot to the card. So I enjoy that. So I won't go through all the majors. That just gives you an idea. And what's interesting about the minors is, so for instance, as you know, they're not scenic minors in the Thoth deck, and they're very much about the decan applications. In other words, the Two of Wands is Mars in Aries, and we see that here, and we get the fiery energy of the wands, and that's all great. But what I like about what she's done is that instead of that just sort of sigil of Mars in Aries, she brings it into the symbolism. So she puts in Aries a ram's head here on the end of one of these war clubs, and a ram's horn on this side, and then this is the planet Mars sign, and also we have two planet Mars signs down here. So you don't have to sort of grope for that Mars and Aries energy. She's really putting it in your face, and it just gives you a little bit more to work with. Here's another very subtle card. It's just Sun in Aries, virtue. You know, it's about an expansion, a blossoming, your best side, and it's just the three lotus wands here. So again, the colorization is very similar in the two cards, and it is Sun in Aries. But what she's done, so here we see the Sun, and here we see the Aries glyphs, a little hidden under here. But what she's done a little bit extra is one is blossoming, two are not. So we sort of get more of a feeling of that expansion that's going on, future expansion, as opposed to they've all blossomed already. So even when she's just tweaking the card a little bit, she just brings that extra something. Sometimes she really sticks to what the Thoth is, and this is a beautiful reproduction, other than putting Cancer right on the cards. She hasn't done much else, but here we see that color differentiation, which is just so much more beautiful, although the same basic palette. In the sword suit, again, just the colors, the dark purples, indigos and blacks with the greens and the yellow. It's just so much more beautiful to look at. And in some ways, when you see a hard card like this, but it's beautiful, it kind of softens the effect a little bit, which I enjoy. She also does this thing. So throughout Thoth, Lady Frida Harris sort of used these pinwheels in the background on all her swords cards to sort of give you that idea of the brain turning around, the pinwheels, where I much more enjoy, and also they were actually swastikas at the time, because we hadn't gone through all that sort of appropriation of the mystical swastika into the Nazi thing yet, so that's a bit disturbing. So here she's changed them to these firing neurons, which seems much more in the head. So I really love what she's done with that. In this case, the Seven of Swords, Lady Frida Harris sort of went off the Golden Dawn palette, and I much prefer this colorful Seven of Swords action going on here. And yes, we can see these swords with all the different planets sort of chipping away at the middle sword. But I kind of like these sort of coming at things from a different angle. And you see these little sort of sparks as it hits the center sword. And it just sort of gives me more the idea of futility. You know, the swords are curved now. They may not be the sword you want for the job. And just in general, the colorization I enjoy more. So now we're getting to where she really moved away in her minors from what Lady Frida Harris did with hers. And I would say in all cases, they're an improvement for me. There's more going on. There's more for your intuition to latch onto. The color system is still the same. Like, again, they both stick to the same color system. So here's the 4 of discs in Thoth. But here she's created this huge safe with everything locked up. This one, it's just not so obvious that you're looking down on a fortress and whatnot. It feels a bit distant. And so I much prefer the safe. Here we have the sort of worry gears of the 5, worry of discs. But here she's created sort of a steampunk worry machine. Again, she's incorporated the Mercury and Taurus into the card. That's just sort of hidden in here, hard to see. So she's just got this, she's still got the upside down pentagram jazz here, but she's created it with these dials that are on empty and running out of gas and RPMs per minute, and that's your brain turning over however many RPMs per minute. And I just really enjoy the quality of that card, and it just gives me a little more. Here, the nicely balanced 6 of discs, or success in work and the material realm. Well, here we've got this sort of worker bees all working for the queen bee in the center, the beautiful natural geometry of the hive in the background. So I just love that there's a little something extra here. And she's very clever about, because this is the intention of the Golden Dawn, is if the 6 of discs is the moon in Taurus, Taurus is the Hierophant card, the moon is the High Priestess card. So she brings in the colors of those cards. If I was to show you the Hierophant, it would be these orangey browns. And if I showed you the High Priestess, it's these blue sapphire colors. So I really enjoy what she's done here. Again, here we have the 7 of discs, sort of the failure card. Same, way of setting up the discs, the 4 and the 3. But she's brought in the Minotaur and the Labyrinth myth here. There's still the darkness, but now there's that hitting walls and trying something else vibe of that myth. Here she's stuck very strongly to the colorization and the setup of the card, but she's introduced a beautiful owl with egg nests to bring in that vibe of prudence. And so I really enjoy that. And it's the Sun in Virgo card. So here's the Sun. And then she just created Virgo sigil out of the roots. Here's where she really improved on the 9 of discs. The 9 of discs or pentacles has always been one of my favorite cards that I identified with in almost every deck, certainly the RWS versions. But in the Thoth, it just kind of is like, just kind of lays there. We've got Venus in Virgo, which we know is Venus is the Empress card, Virgo is the Hermit card. So we see that woman alone kind of thing. But you really have to stretch to get there. And then we have gain, but do we see gain on the card? Not so much. So here she's really just done this wonderful abacus in the same colors, but still so clear that we are counting up things, Virgo, accountant, counting, green for the money and Venus on the card. Just clever, clever, clever. And the 10 of discs, all the same, except she's made them into Chinese coins with the lucky red thread to bring wealth into your life. So just a beautiful sort of upping the game. So she's really made, the discs went from my meh suit in the Thoth to my favorite suit in the Rosetta Tarot. So here we have, she stuck very closely to this, and wisely, because this is usually considered everyone's favorite card in the Thoth deck in terms of beauty. So no changes there. Here's the Prince of Discs. Here's a bit of a failure for me because, you know, this is a body image card for me. So we've got a buff guy taking care of business, and he's naked. And here we just sort of got this scrawny arm guy. Is he even male? I'm not sure. But the bull is really a standout in this card, and the colorization and all the energy is beautiful. This guy's a bit scrawny. So now, like I said, it's a body image card. So now I see this guy, you know, in the before and this in the after. In other words, this guy is going to get into working out so he can sort of build up to the strength. But I just have to do that extra little jump. Both of these very similar, both beautiful, but I think this is just a little more like an oasis than this one is. And again, now we have the scrawny knight. This is my favorite knight in the Thoth deck, and this is just a little bit scrawnier with these little antlers are down, and just not as great for me. So the nice thing about this deck is that it'll answer the profound questions, which is no surprise being so Golden Dawn mystical based. But it's got no problem answering silly questions either. So, for instance, I have just finished, I'm late to the party, but I just finished viewing all 9 seasons of The Office, the American version, and I had chosen not to watch the show because I much preferred, the British version with Ricky Gervais was just perfection, and I didn't want anything to ruin that. So years and years have gone by, and now I was ready to watch the American Office, and I really loved it. And if you don't know the show, it's about this doofus office manager who just wants to be loved by his staff. He considers them friends and family when they're really just employees. And so I just asked, you know, what's this show about? So the center card was the Queen of Wands, which is, to me, is always the boss manager card. On one side of her was the Knight of Cups. So that's that guy looking for love, on a quest for love. And on the other side of her was the Fool, which is the doofus part. And on the bottom of the deck, we had the Six of Discs. And here they all are in their work cubicles, and him, the queen bee, in the middle. So it just blew me away how just right on point that little reading was. So that's it for now. I've gone on and on about this deck. I really, really love it. I hope the whole soul deck thing really sticks. I haven't bought a new deck in 8 months. The last one was a Thoth deck. And I hope that's it for me. And I just continue to use this deck forever and ever. Amen. So bye for now. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care. And let me know if you have this deck and what you think of it.